What if your past isn't a carving in stone but sand beneath the water? The current shifts, and the shape disappears. You think that what happened is set in stone, that it's forever, that you just have to accept it, live with the weight, the mistakes, the regrets. But who told you that? Who made you believe the past is unchangeable? The truth is, time isn't linear. It's more like clay. And that means you can shape it. Not in a Hollywood way, not through a time machine, but through perception, through your state of being, through rewriting yourself. When you truly shift your mindset, when you let go, forgive, and heal, you begin to rewrite your entire timeline. People in your life start acting differently. Memories lose their sharpness. Reality begins stitching a new thread. And suddenly, you feel as if it never even happened. Or it happened differently. And yes, this isn't just a beautiful metaphor. It's documented. In one experiment in Brazil, a group of people prayed for the souls of those who had died many years ago. Not for the living, not for healing, but for the dead, long archived. A few days later, they found that the medical records of some of the deceased had changed. In the archives, in the data, in the past. Doctors confirmed it. Archivists confirmed it. The statistics were rewritten retroactively. How? No way. At least, not logically. To the linear mind, this is impossible. But to living perception, to consciousness, everything is possible. Because reality isn't recorded yesterday, it's recorded now. And if today, you've rebuilt yourself completely, your past will rebuild itself to match. And that's just the beginning. Sometimes you don't even need to return to the past, it comes to you. Through pain, through strange repetitions. Have you noticed how the body remembers things your mind tries to forget? What if your past isn't carved in stone but sand underwater? The current shifts, and the shape disappears. You think that everything that happened is final, that it's set in stone, that you just have to accept it, live with the weight, the mistakes, the wounds. But who told you that? Who convinced you the past is unmovable? The truth is, time isn't linear. It's more like clay. And that means you can shape it. Not in the Hollywood way, not through a time machine, but through perception, through your inner state, through rewriting yourself. When you truly change your thinking, when you let go, forgive, and heal, you rewrite your entire path. People start acting differently. Memories lose their sharpness. Reality begins to weave a new thread. And suddenly it feels like it never happened, or it didn't happen that way. And no, this isn't just poetic metaphor. It's real. In one study in Brazil, a group of people prayed for the souls of those who had died many years ago. Not the living, not for healing, for the dead. People listed in archives. A few days later, something strange happened. For some of the deceased, their medical records changed. The diagnoses changed. In the archives. In the past. It was confirmed by doctors. Confirmed by archivists. The statistics had been rewritten retroactively. How? No way, at least not by logic. To a linear mind, it's impossible. But to perception, to consciousness, anything is possible. Because reality isn't fixed yesterday, it's fixed right now. And if you've rebuilt yourself today, then your past will rebuild itself to match you. And that's just the beginning. Sometimes you don't need to return to the past. It comes to you. Through pain. Through strange repetitions. Have you noticed how the body remembers things your mind tries to forget? A stomach ache when you see someone who once betrayed you. Tightness in your chest when you return to a place where you suffered. These aren't just reactions. They're imprints of the past, stuck in the present. Our body is an archive, not for facts, but for emotions. It doesn't care whether something really happened, or if you just replayed it 1,000 times in your head. To your body, everything is real. Everything is recorded. But here's what's wild. When you change your reaction, you change the record itself. There was a study. People were asked to revisit their trauma with a new perspective, a new frame, as if it were a dream, a symbol, a lesson, and after a few sessions, their bodies stopped reacting. The fear disappeared, and when asked to retell the story a month later, they told it differently, like it had happened to someone else. Because inside, they were no longer the same person. That's the magic of reality. Change your reaction, and the trauma dissolves. So if you change how you see, you change what actually happened. You're no longer a victim of the past. You can be its editor, its rewriter, its author. Right now. Why is it that when you change on the inside, you suddenly see the past differently? Why do childhood events suddenly gain new meaning, even though the facts remain? Why do you stop blaming your parents and start understanding why you were given that exact family? Because the past isn't stable. It rewrites itself through your maturity. Memory isn't a tape. It's a portal. And if you walk into it with new clarity, you'll find a different story waiting. Here's a real case. In Poland in the 1990s, researchers were studying local archives from a typhus epidemic in the 1880s. And in one city, they found duplicates of old church records. But some names listed as deceased were crossed out and replaced with people who allegedly lived to old age. The strangest part? In those families, there were old legends. Their ancestors had been wrongfully declared dead. Later, it turned out their descendants regularly gathered to pray and perform ancestral healing rituals. No one could explain how physical archives from the 19th century had changed. But the fact remained. Something intervened. The future reached into the past. The past is not history. It's a mirror. One that bends to your current state. You are no longer a victim, and your memory responds. You're no longer in pain, and the old events lose their power. You are the center, and everything else is just data, being rewritten to match your new version. You don't realize how often you program yourself just by remembering the past. I was humiliated. I had terrible parents. I'm a failure. My childhood was hard. These aren't just words. They are energetic anchors. Each one locks you into the old version of the event and stops you from leaving it. You create a feedback loop. You speak it. You confirm it. You relive it. You speak it again. The cycle repeats. The past becomes a trap you step into again and again, through thought, through voice, through story. But what if you change the language? Instead of "they humiliated me," this experience taught me to see the lie and the power in people. Instead of "I had a hard childhood," I was born into conditions that forged my strength. You're not lying to yourself. You're not denying pain. You're programming meaning. This isn't positive thinking. This is speech alchemy. Like an ancient master, you turn the metal of pain into gold of understanding. And in that moment, reality begins to loosen its knots. You feel guilt falling away like dead skin. You feel the resentment you wore like armor begin to crack. You feel the old memory lose its grip. The world doesn't know what really happened. It only reads your vibration. And your vibration is built from thoughts, words, stories. Want to change the past? Change the way you speak about it. That's the paradox. You live in linear time, yesterday, today, tomorrow. But your brain doesn't. To your mind, whatever you recall is relived in real time. When you revisit a traumatic moment, your body releases the same chemicals. Your heart races, your muscles tense. Your brain floods with cortisol, as if you're back there again. Your psyche doesn't know whether it's real or remembered, and that's why healing works. If you can go back there with a new perspective, with a new level of awareness, with a new decision, you literally rewrite the neural pathway. It's like sending a letter to your past. I see things differently now. There are dozens of cases. People released from phobias, chronic pain, guilt, even shifting destiny. Not because someone apologized, but because they rewrote the script. They rewired the code, and the matrix read it. That's why inner work matters. That's why sincere prayer works. That's why meditation heals. Because it's not just spiritual fluff. It's a real way to recode your internal system. Ever heard of people who, after healing the past, suddenly remember things differently, or discover new details, or even meet different people, like reality diverged? It's not a bug. It's a reboot. You change the core, and everything adjusted. You think the past is what already happened, that it's somewhere behind you. But the truth is, the past lives now, inside you. Every reaction, every fear, every pattern is not the current you. It's the then you, frozen in time. Everything you haven't processed still drives your life. That's why when you remember something painful, your body reactivates the same chemistry. One image. And you're ashamed again, afraid again, shutting down again. You're literally reliving the past as your present. But here's the flip side. When you change your perception, you change everything. You can revisit the same moment and for the first time say what you always needed to hear. You can imagine that now you're the adult, and you're standing beside that child. And suddenly something appears that was never there before. Support, strength, choice. And that's the miracle. You're no longer that version of you, and the past can't hold you anymore. You've become someone else. And that's when everything starts to shift. People, relationships, health, your path. The matrix adapts to the new version of you. You didn't just remember. You rewrote the code. That is the point of recoding. Not returning to pain, but choosing a new response. And everything begins to crack. Reality starts responding to your new clarity, because you stopped being a victim of the script and became its author. It may feel like everything is already written, that you're simply following a line drawn long ago. The product of your childhood, your family, your traumas, your mistakes. But you're not the product. You're the process. You're the choice you make right now. Your self-image. It's not just a mirror. It's a command you send to the universe. You can see yourself as a victim, and reality will confirm it. Or you can see yourself as strength, as possibility, as the one who changes the game. One thought can turn your destiny. One thought can open the door to a new version of you. And this isn't magic. It's the physics of perception. Because in this world, you don't see what's real. You see what you are. Your past isn't a sentence. It's material, waiting to be reshaped, with a new reaction, a new meaning, a new lens. The fact that you're watching this video is already a sign. You are waking up. You're stepping out of default mode and returning to yourself. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. You are not a random viewer. You are awake, and maybe you've already started rewriting your reality. See you soon. Be well, and don't wake the sleeping.